Well, the packages arrived today. Got my new linear actuators and control board and everything else, photo eyes from USAutomatic. Going to put in a new gate operator here because we've had this nice Apollo version. See the equipment here, it's called Nice. Well, it hasn't been very nice, and the control boards, I've lost too many to count. They've warrantied a couple, replaced a couple. I had to buy a couple. I'm really tired of it. Every time a year goes by, we have 4 different gates. One of the boards goes out because they're all using the same equipment. The arms have been great. Everything else has been great, but it's the control board. So I'm going to switch to this USAutomatic brand here. They give you an awesome instruction manual to understand how their system works and how everything connects into it. You're basically getting a system with less sophisticated electronics, which makes it more simple and more reliable. If you look at the LED display that you get with the Apollo, it's got all kinds of features and functions in there. The majority you don't need for basic gate operation. And with the USAutomatic, you get some very simplified interface, very simplified dip switches and controls that I'm going to get that mounted up here, and you'll see how much simpler it is. And so let's get this put together. I'm going to have to do a little work here because the way the arm's set up from the Apollo system, it's different. I may have to weld a little bit, not sure yet. But first thing I'm going to do is get the box mounted and start to get my wiring connected back up, and then we'll look at the 2 arms. Now to mount the box to the wall, I drilled a couple holes in the box with a step drill. Then I took the box, put it up against the wall to make my measurements, and then I drilled holes into the stone with a masonry bit, and then attached my wires up through the bottom, and then tapped it in place using a lag bolt made out of lead that'll secure the box to the wall nice and tight. So the box is mounted, and that's solid. I've got a few different wires coming out here. This is electrical power to the box, and we'll plug the battery charger up to that. And then right next to it here, this is the keypad that's outside of the gate on the street, and this is a linear brand keypad, and that'll come in through there. Then we've got a free exit. This is a Cartel CP4 connection. So you're triggering off of this blue here. When it senses the metal going by, it'll open the gate, and then you got power, and then you've got 2 going to common, these 2 here. And then this is the far side actuator. We'll have to splice those wires to the plugs in here. This is just an extra cable that goes to the other side. We don't really use it for anything now. And then in that hole there will go the near side actuator. We'll go through there. And here's the control board for the whole system. And what you can see here, it's a lot simpler than the Apollo. There's just fewer things on it. And these are some somewhat older chipset, so hopefully they're a little bit more robust. And then all your adjustments are done with some of these dials here. It just looks like an older tech approach to a technology problem so that you don't have to keep chasing electrical problems. So a lot less to go wrong with this kind of setup. That is my hope as we're dealing with this. So all of your wires are going to connect in to here for all of your accessories and such, but a lot of the other devices will have their plugs right into the board around different places. This thing connects into the box with these plastic anchors, and it snaps into place on 4 corners. The manual that they give you is awesome. It's this glossy paper, big letters, you can see it. It's not this tiny little print. Gives you a whole layout for how you should arrange the accessories inside the unit. All the instructions are very easy to understand. It's really well done. This is a battery controller, handles your charging from your AC source to your DC battery. And this here is the wireless receiver for your remote controls. This is your entrapment alarm, so it's the buzzer that goes off when the gate is moving. This here is a wireless receiver that we had from before, and that receiver does the inside keypad, which is wireless. I got some double-sided tape just to hold that on. And here's your DC power supply. It's going to plug into the controller there. Then you get the cabling to connect from the controller down to the battery and also onto the control board. So you're going to be charging through the battery, and then you're going to be powering the arms here through the control board. And as soon as I got the battery plugged in, you can see the voltage is showing here. I've got 12.5 volts, but there's nothing coming in right now because we're not plugged in. And the connector from the wireless receiver to the control board is with this wire here that they provide you. And there's a little plug on the right side there where you can remove, and you can replace that with this coax connector, and this is going to connect to your antenna. Looks like I'm going to have to drill this hole out because this doesn't fit. I would have thought they had made that large enough to fit. And this is a 3/8 hole here that you need to fit that in. Now you can attach the antenna that they give you here and then just bend that up. But I've also got an antenna here, a cable from before that I'm going to attach to this and route that up higher. So we got 3 devices here. We got the wireless keypad here, the free exit from Cartel, and then the linear keypad on the outside of the gate. All 3 of these are going to need power. So I'm going to take the red leads from each, and I'm going to put those together and try to slide them in here into spot number 1 on this J2 connector bar here. And now the Cartel, the free exit device, that has a white and a black that need to go to ground. So I'm going to use position number 7 for that. And tighten that down. And then the reason I'm using that is because the other line for the Cartel has to go into number 9, which is just to the right of it. Right in here, that's number 9. And then the yellow on the Cartel is not used, so just curl that back. And then on the linear, that's going to use 3 and 5. So I'm going to use the intercept, or the button press, goes into number 3. And so that's right here. And that's the green. That could be different for yours. It just happens to be the kind of wire I use between the keypad and here. But the green went to the intercept, and then the white, or the yellow in this case, and the black both go to the common ground. So I'm going to put them at number 5. And then my wireless keypad, That's also going to need to go into number 3 for the intercept button. So I should have done that when I did the linear, but let's put that in there now. And then that wireless keypad has a black and a white, which need to go to a ground, and I'll put those in spot number 2 here. Okay, so for a rundown on this, all 3 go to power here on 1, and then the ground for the wireless keypad is on 2. Got the button intercept on 3. Got the button intercept for the linear also on 3, and then the grounds for the linear on 5, and then the free exit grounds on 7, and then the free exit in blue on 9. So that's everything except the photo eye. I'm going to do the photo eye absolutely last, and but for now, this is everything in the box here that I needed to wire up. So let's take a look at some of the differences between the nice Apollo on top and the USAutomatic on the bottom. They're about the same length, just a little bit shorter for the Apollo, it seems like. But I might be able to, with the adjustment here that's threaded on the end, get that to match up. But they're just a little bit, almost the same exact length, but pretty close. And then looking at the hinge point, this is where it gets interesting, because as you've got this set up for your gate, you got to have this from the pivot point here, the hinge. You want the pivot point 6 inches here, this distance, and 13 inches this distance. It's the same for both Apollo and for USAutomatic. But Apollo uses a setup like this, where the box steel has that hole in it, and it just mounts and it sits right on top. And that's where the actuator pivots from. It sits right on top with this piece right here. And then their bolt just drops down through like this. But then on the USAutomatic, they use a slightly different piece of tubing here, because they use this steel bushing here, these rubber bushings, and the pin all go through the hole here on the actuator. And then the actuator sits inside the center here. It doesn't sit on top. This is what the nice one is doing. It's sitting on top like that. And this one here, it's going inside it. So I'm not going to be able to make use of this, because with that pin going inside here, it's going to hit the sides. And so I'm either going to have to cut the sides out, or I'm going to just probably lop the whole end of it off and then cut this and weld it in place. So that's a consideration when you're trading out the arms. They aren't exactly going to connect the same. And I'm a little concerned about the height, because the height needs to be lined up just right for where that attaches to on the gate there. That piece there is a chance that might need to be adjusted downward, I think. But we'll see what happens after we get this part figured out. All right, so that cut came out pretty clean, and actually pretty square too. So I was a little worried about it being off angle, because it's just in a weird position. But yeah, if you don't have one of those DeWalt bandsaws, you got to get one. It cuts through this like butter, and this is thick stuff, and it's hardly any effort. I mean, that took 4 minutes. I sped up the time, but the actual time it took to cut that was about 4 minutes. All right, so I got the piece being held there by that magnet here on the bottom, and we're going to go ahead and get that welded up. I am not a good welder, but it works for me. For the far side of the gate, I did need to weld the bracket underneath because the arm from Apollo just mounted a little different. It sat up just enough higher that it made this one be a little bit under tension. So I went ahead and welded that one right below. I'm just going to cut the ear off of that top one there for this side. I'm going to go ahead and solder those two cables going to each of the arms into their corresponding connector plugs that go onto the main board. And so all these need to be wired up to these. So I attached some heat shrink tubing here, so I'll be ready after I solder it to slide this up and over. I've also got a set of these helping hands. These are magnetic ones that are super handy to hold the wire when I'm doing the soldering. We'll start with these here. So the first cable is all done. This is another amazing tool. Just stripping wires is painless with this thing. Just do one grab like that. Took me a long time before I realized these tools were out there. So if you haven't seen this before, you got to get one. It's idiot proof. All right, so now what I've done is I've plugged everything in except for the entrapment alarm because I don't want that buzzing on us. And I haven't attached gate 2 yet, but I've plugged in the J2 connector and I've plugged in the gate 1, and we'll do that one first, as well as I've plugged in the remote receiver here. So for this board to work, it needs to have a working compliant photo eye. So I did hook up the photo eye. Here is the power for it. It goes on to 12. So that when the board gets activated, then the photo eye will get power, and that's a power saving thing they do for solar applications and stuff. It has a ground that goes here into 7, and then the control, because my photo eye is going to be protecting on the closing action, then I've used it in number 8. If you're going to do it on the open, you're going to use it on a different one. For dip switches up here, these are important. You need to specify what you're dealing with. By default, they all are set to off except for gate 1 and gate 2. So I do have 2 gates, so I will turn them both on. And then because I'm going to use a powered photo eye, I need the power, so I'm going to switch this bottom one on. That's PEPW, it's power, photo eye power. And then because I'm using the photo eye on the closing action, I'm going to turn that on as well. And then I'm going to leave all the rest of these off. When I'm finally done with everything, I will turn on the automatic close, which is the top button here, and that's automatically will close the gate after a set period of time. Right now we're going to be looking at these dials here on the right, the retracting limits, and we'll be making those adjustments. Now that everything is plugged in and I've connected up my 2 wires up to power here also, the board has power, so we'll go ahead and push the power or the open close, and we should see the first gate start to open up, or in my case, start to close. There we go. And then it just closed just part way. And what that's allowing me to do is to use these retracting limit buttons here, these dials, to adjust that. And as I turn that, then this is going to move the arm till I get to right lined up where it's fully closed. So go ahead and give that a try. And what we're looking at first here is I want to extend the gate more. So I'm going to go to the second dial, do a little turn, push the button. All right, go ahead and do a little bit more. A little more. So all I'm doing here is I'm just adjusting that dial a little bit at a time. See if I can hold that there, you can see it. And it looks like I'm at about the max for this arm, so I'll do some adjustments on the swivel on the end there. So we did get it pretty close. That's looking to be pretty much in the closed position. Now let's see what it does on the full open. So now we're going to do the same thing on the second gate. I'll disconnect first gate, connect the second one. Now remember, you can't even get to this part of testing any of these gates unless your photo eye is connected, because the board knows if you don't have a photo eye connected, it won't work. So it just acts like it's dead, but that's what you got to make sure you got connected, is your photo eye. So got that plugged in. Let's push the open close button on the board right here. All right, and then the reason why it only closes a little bit on that first time is because your board is set with the extend limit all the way at 0. And now if I go ahead and turn it a little bit, now if you wait too long to start turning the dial, you'll have to cycle on and off again because it won't be paying attention to this adjustment. You'll hear a little click and it'll do that. So I'm slowly moving it in. I'm just going like 6 inches at a time. Now I'm just going to see if I can get my gates to match up at fully closed. Let's see. A little bit more. And that looks like about it. Let's go check up close. Yeah, I'd say we're here. These gates are a little bit banged up, so they don't exactly match up, but that's pretty much closed, full close. So I think that adjustment's good. Now I'm going to go ahead and put that other gate plug in. All right, and then we'll go ahead and push and open. All right, we got fully open. Looks good on this side here, off the concrete. Now what I like about this is because I went and welded that bracket here, it's a lot more level. The other side seems to be pushing up, so I'm going to need to do that on the other side also. I thought the other side was close enough that it would be okay, but I like the way this is working better. The Apollo, the difference is just the way the geometry is on the Apollo when it's connected to that arm, which I left at that same length. The attaching point here is a little bit higher than what it is for the Ranger or for the USAutomatic. So you're going to want to take note of that. This will probably need to be adjusted just about one bracket below. Okay, what we're going to do next is program the remotes to the receiver here. Now, first thing you want to do is change the default of your code. So in this case here, they all come, I think it's all pressed down. So you're going to want to mix this up a little bit and take note of that, because if you buy additional remotes, all you'll need to do is set those dip switches and you'll already be ready to go for the gate. So you don't have to come to the gate to push a button or anything. So go ahead and make a change there on some of the dip switches. Take note of that, and then just close the door back up to it, lock it in place there. And now you've got button 1 and button 2, and that corresponds to press 1 and press 2, P1, P2. So you're going to need something here to reach in. There's a little button in there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press and hold this button down, and then press and hold that one there till I see that green LD light come on. And that activated the gates as well. That green light came on just about a second after I pressed that button. And now this button is active. And now my other remote, without even doing anything, because I put the same dip switches on both, that one works also. So that's a pretty nice feature that, you know, you're going to have to stick with these USAutomatic remotes, but to be able to just flip the dip switches and know that it's going to work, it's really nice, because having to press and hold and press a button here on the Apollo system isn't always intuitive. It's tricky to get those remotes programmed and matched up, and this one's pretty easy. So the last thing I'm going to want to do is I'm going to turn on the automatic close, and I hit that switch there. Now there's a minimum and a maximum on this. Looks like it's set now to the maximum. Now, in experimenting with this a little bit, what I found was for me to get it to close in about 30 seconds, I needed to put it facing to the 9 o'clock position. Now, if you notice on these little dial here, there's a little arrowhead. That's what it means it's pointing to. So every notch was a decent amount of change, but this will probably be about 45 seconds because this was about just under 30 seconds. I got up to 5 here, pointing it up straight up like this, and it was over a minute. It was like a minute and 10. So I'm going to just try this here. I want to get it at about 45 seconds or so, and I'll do some more experimenting with that. But that's how you adjust your auto close. All you got to do is just do that, and it'll do it by itself. And then another final control in here you're going to want to tweak based on your needs is this SW2. It comes by default with button number 3 on and the others all off. Now the 4th one doesn't do anything, but the combination of these 3 will adjust the soft close swing speed of the gates. So in my case, I wanted it to go as slow as possible, so I just activated 1, 2, and 3, and that'll help it when it opens and closes. It doesn't hit as hard because it depends on the weight of your gates. You might have better luck adjusting those. But for now, that's pretty much everything is set up here. I'm going to get it buttoned up, and we're going to do a couple tests, but I think we're done. Everything's all set up, and we are ready to go. So you can see how that slows down. I got it on the slowest setting for that soft close and open, and that works out pretty good for this, so it doesn't bang the gate too much. But that's it. Everything's working. Everything's set up and in the system here. Happy to have been able to switch it over without too much hassle. I did have to lower this bracket here. I just cut off the first one and welded the other one below it. And that'll keep that arm a little more level, and so it's pushing straight ahead. But otherwise, yeah, I'm happy. The USAutomatic equipment, it's easy to set up, it's easy to understand, and you know, even the remotes, everything's simple about it. So hopefully it's set it and forget it, and I don't have to worry about this gate anymore. And we'll see how long this control board lasts, and I bet you it does better than that nice Apollo. Anyhow, have a great day.